The ability to draw was a way for me to balance myself. I was an isolated child. So like when I went to school, I would draw more than being able to socialize. I had a beautiful childhood, but the tumultuous inner family life, right? I would run away a lot. Stuff. I kept hanging out in the streets and I kept being a part of that. I was just crashing. I was crashing. I don't think I would have survived. I was failing out of school. I wasn't going to graduate, and I probably wasn't going to survive if I didn't make a radical shift.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Beyond the Process, where we explore the art of storytelling. I'm your host, Lance Laspina, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host and personal au pair, Mr. Shane Patrick White. On today's show, we have another really special guest for you. He's been a professional storyboard artist for close to 30 years now. He's worked on such feature films as Deadpool and Wolverine, Riddick, The Fast and Furious, and the upcoming Jurassic Park movie. In addition, he's also worked on the Netflix series Blue Eye Samurai and tons of commercials and video games. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show, Mr. Charles Ratteray.
Excellent. Hey, how's it going? Pleasure to be here.
You had grown up in Washington, D.C. as a kid. So I'm always curious, because I always think that our surroundings and the things that we're exposed to as a young child really help influence us, especially those who become artists. So I'm curious to know some of your creative influences. Like, were you into comics, movies, or were there any kind of books that really influenced you as a kid that you can recall?
Yeah, the time period that I identify mostly is with the 90s. So in that time period, it was comic books, Cabbage Patch Kid collecting cards, all that type of stuff. So that was I really loved doing that type of stuff. So I had, I was definitely into comics. I was heavy into comics, mostly like the Marvel stuff.
Okay.
The X-Men.
Yeah.
And then I had a love for all of them. They had like Alpha Flight. It was like, I just loved the stories.
Yeah.
I just loved, and then the way that it was drawn, I was like, it really influenced a lot. As far as like whatever I could get my hands on, then that's what would usually influence me.
Okay. Any artists come to mind in particular, the comic book artists?
When I look back at it, I was like that Mark Silvestri.
Yeah, Mark Silvestri. Yeah.
The draftsmanship was very, very, very good. Right. It's like, and so it was just, I don't know, just very engaging. So like, yeah, that I liked that time period. And then as far as like other artists, Frazetta.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I was like, I think in that it was like I liked all the artists that kind of like they started to bend what was traditional, right? And then it went away from like the classical stuff, and then so I would always ignite my imagination. So yeah, like that, and then Alphonse, when I saw the Alphonse Mucha stuff, like it's just I was just like, oh, look how they can do all the curl, it was just expanding. I was like, oh, look what else is out there, type of thing.
Yeah.
Didn't Washington, D.C. have like a lot of museums as well that you could go to? I mean, did you take any field trips or anything like that might have influenced you as well?
They did. I think at that age, I love comics.
Yeah.
I just like, as far as like the classical appreciation didn't come into what I was
Oh,
older.
sure.
But it's like, so I'd always try to copy the comic, like I would like, oh, like I would look at the classical stuff, and, the figure drawings and stuff. And then I would gravitate more towards the comic book stuff because it was edgy. It had the cool lines, the cool characters.
So like the Jim Lee era, Mark Silvestri, Todd McFarlane, and
top in front, all
those guys. Okay.
My gosh.
A lot of lines.
Yeah.
A lot of lines.
Yeah. And the way that they expanded on what the traditional would look like, definitely like Jim Lee, like how he just drew those characters, they would just look like superheroes, right? And so it was really,
everyone
cool.
Was badass.
Awesome.
That's what was so cool about it. Like Professor X, even in a wheelchair, it was just like I respect this dude. He looks like he could still kick my ass, even though he couldn't move his legs.
But the storytelling was so awesome, especially as a young mind. Like that's all I used to do was like read books. I would just read and read and read, so much to the point where like I would be up to 3 or 4 in the morning with my flashlight.
Nice.
Like after my mom told me to go to bed because I have to get up, go to school, I'd just be under the covers reading books, comic books. Because I just love the story arcs. They just kept expanding my mind of like what could be possible.
Nice.
Is that your first inclination then of you wanting to become an artist? Like, did they inspire you to the point where you said, this is what I want to do whenever I grow up?
I didn't know that as far as what I wanted to do when I wanted to grow up. It wasn't comics or just the ability to draw was a way for me to balance myself. You know, so I had a beautiful childhood, but the tumultuous inner family life, right? And so that was me being able to balance myself and to be able to create and to be able to get a self-confidence within myself, because we were very isolated. And so I was an isolated child. So like when I went to school, I would draw more than being able to socialize.
Gotcha.
Right? So
that was your escape.
It'd be like definitely.
Yeah. Is that how you would describe the tumultuous part of your just when you said you had a beautiful childhood, but it was tumultuous? Is that the part because you felt isolated?
Well, beautiful childhood meaning is like, it's where we lived at. It was in Washington, D.C., over in Chevy Chase. So the place where I was at was very suburban, right? And so the beautiful childhood means and at that time period, you could leave the house in the early mornings, and then they wouldn't see you again until the evening.
Yeah,
till the street lights come on, or somebody whistles. It's time for dinner.
Exactly.
I would just be out and just in the creek. We lived right by this thing called Rock Creek Park, which is it's just a forest surrounding all the neighborhoods around it.
Oh, so nice.
I'd take my bike, I'd go down to the creek, I go catch snapping turtles and salamanders and bring them home, and then
I bet your mom loved that.
They encouraged me on that. We had a basement, and then I would ask for terrariums.
Oh, nice.
Right. So I had a room down there. It was filled with terrariums. So every time I would find something, I'd go down there and build a habitat, and then.
Oh, that's cool.
It's almost like a miniature Jurassic Park kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because it looks, it looks like a little miniature set. And I always wanted to play with those, and light them. And that would have been fun.
Yeah,
dude.
That's fun.
I like building things. My dad was a builder. So that was he was a craftsman. So he used to build things. He used to build wooden puzzles for us. He used to build jungle gems for out back for us.
Nice.
So that kind of that's why I like traditional things. I like to tag like the paints. Like if I'm dipping into paints, I like to get on my hands. I like to smell it. I just like the colors, because it's cool.
That's very cool. So I know something else that I had read that influenced you heavily as a kid was street art. So I'm curious, like, when did you start noticing it, and what kind of impact did it have on you?
Well, okay. With that, I was like, so the street art was because since we had the tumultuous part with the home, with parents, and I would run away a lot. I would not be at home.
Okay.
I had friends I would run out with friends and everything, but the fact that I would stay away from the house and they didn't know where I was is wild, because I'm a parent now, and just the idea of that, I was like, what in the world?
Yeah, can you imagine?
Right?
Yeah, you can't even imagine that happening now.
I would explore the city. With the friend sets. Some friend sets were good, some friend sets were not so much. But as I moved past my home life and I went into the actual city, and then we were there at nighttime, then you find other street kids, right, who are actual street kids, and then they would be hanging out, and then their culture was they would be using art. They would either be painting on the walls, or I'd start picking up these habits that they would have. Sketchbooks was another thing at that time period, when they would be doing, like, before they would go do wall art, they would do these beautiful pieces of art in these sketchbooks, right? They would become works of art.
Yeah.
You have loose papers, like cut up paper, they paste it, they put paint on there. It was all about like who could make the coolest sketchbook, and you have a backpack full of those. And then so I ran into those type of people. And then, so the urban art was my appreciation with that, because we'd be down into the subway system, which is wild. Like 12, 13-year-olds, 14-year-olds down there, after midnight down in the, it's the idea
what
of
can
that
go
now.
wrong?
I'm like, what is right? What is happening?
Yeah. But to this day, you can see that influence of street art in your artwork. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, it stayed.
Yeah.
That definitely stayed.
Yeah.
Like I like the vibrancy of it. I like colors
Mhm.
because it just makes it feel as though that it's breathing
Yeah.
with life. I like the life part. I mean, I went through a period where I was doing more muted colors,
Mhm.
but I was like I'm pretty sensitive to things. So like I personally don't like creating that much unless I'm paid to do it, you know what I'm
Sure.
saying? Because I'd much rather having it be like that street, that vibrant,
Mhm.
like neons, colors emitting from someplace, maybe in the shadows, or it's cool. So I just like it.
Not to dwell too much on it, but because there's a lot to talk about, but like, how did you manage to make a living like on the streets? Like, I don't know how long you were gone, versus like how much money and how would you get food? Or, I mean, those survival skills that can be taken with you later on in life, but in that moment, it's.
Maybe I should edit that. Okay. So being street, what's the word for it? Maybe it is a suburban street kid.
Yeah. Okay.
Whereas like I always had a home to come to, or I had a home to go to, or I had friends with homes to stay at. I wasn't on the streets, sleeping.
Okay.
Right. You just stay away for long periods of time.
I just stayed away from my house. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
And at that time, I was like, I would be other people's families. They would have food there. We'd have like games. Like, or whatever
Nice.
was available within their structure. Be
Nice.
using well with them.
I see that your senior year of high school, you actually went to a military school. How did that come about? Whose decision was that?
What is this crashing? I was crashing. I don't think I would have survived. I don't think I would have survived. I was getting into a lot of stuff. I kept hanging out in the streets, and I kept being a part of that. Mm-hmm. And as a suburban kid, saying the other people that are actually in the streets, right?
Yeah.
They have different realities, right? So I had this one point when this one person set me up for whatever reason. At that time, there were arcades.
Okay. Yeah.
Right? And so that was.
I remember those. Yep.
So you go to an arcade, and then you get quite good, and then you'd be like, it was like a sport, right? Like oh my gosh, so and so is coming in.
Right.
And I was like, you best Street Fighter.
Yeah, get your initials up on the screen, right?
Exactly. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, that was the
thing.
Was the
goal.
I was like tagging.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. But yeah, I was down in Georgetown. It was supposed to be a nicer part of DC, but it was on the fringes of that at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I was in there, and I just got. Somebody wanted to, for their amusement, just got me to get outside, and then I got surrounded by a group of grown. They're like 30 years old and a little young. So I was like a 14-year-old. So yeah, I just got jumped.
Oh man!
And then they got my face got broken. I had to they crushed part of my, what are those called? The zygomatic.
Oh yeah, the ocular zygomatic bone. Yeah. Jesus.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, at that point, my mom had to come down to the hospital, and because she hadn't seen me for a day or two, right? And then when she did see me, it's because they had called and saying that I was in the hospital, because I was failing out of school, right? I was just like nothing was like, I was just, the home was not cool.
Mm-hmm.
It was like and my grades were not cool. I had a running 2.0 average or something like it was wild, right? And so I was like, I wasn't going to graduate, and I probably wasn't going to survive if I didn't make a radical shift, right? And so my mom was like, she was always on my team, like when I say like tumultuous, my mom was, they loved me,
sure.
But the solution was, she said, hey, do you want to go to this school? It's in Fort Union, Virginia. That's a military school out in the middle of nowhere.
Oh my!
You take a bus to get out there. It's like 2 hours. So the idea was to remove myself from the environment that I was in,
right,
so I could be in another environment and then see what would happen. I remember that the ride getting out there is just all you saw. First it was urban, and then it went to nothing but countryside and then trees. And it was like that for an hour or so. You know what I'm saying? Going out, I was like, dude, there's like, even if you wanted to run away, even if you wanted to go anywhere, where would you go? It was like, you're
not getting far.
I mean, I look back at it from that. I was like, since everything got removed, then I was actually able to study and focus. And so I almost got like a 4.0 after.
Wow.
Had so much self-confidence in that was developed because I was like, I wasn't failing out of school. I was math. I was actually, I love calculus. I was like, oh yeah, this is cool. I like the way it makes my mind work. You know what I'm saying? The structure was awesome. I look back, it wasn't awesome at the time, but it was awesome now. because we had, you have to wake up, you have to wake up to a bugle,
Yep.
Oh,
right?
jeez.
And then you have to keep your spaces. Everyone's got to keep, everything was all nice and buttoned up, and
Yep.
you had to clean it. The guy came in there with a white cloth, a white glove, to make sure there's no dust anywhere.
Wow.
Because it sort of breaks you down and builds you back up into something new. Did you find that your taste in people or art or any of that stuff you had in the past change on you, and was it for the better?
Yeah, it was absolutely for the better. I don't remember what time period. There was a time period where I didn't do any art for like 6 years.
Whoa.
So nothing has been like a straight line, right? So it was like when you say like what did you want to be? I was like, I didn't know what I wanted to be. I just didn't. I was like, there's a lot of needs that I was trying to meet, and had to stumble through it. The art thing, re-engaging into the art, came after failing at college.
Oh.
I went to Maryland University, and then the only thing I did there was, party and not go to class, and then have the experience of the business and marketing. I was like, dude, I don't want to be in a cubicle. I don't want to do that.
Right.
I was like, and do these numbers. So my dad was like, oh, we have to choose something. Pick a trade or something, or either the police, fire, like whatever, do something, right? Pick it. Or and I was like, well, what about doing art? And it's like, yeah, he's like, there's an art school up in Philly. And so I was like, okay, I guess I'll try that since I've been doing it. I like doing that, right? But yeah, I that was the path I went.
But what year was that?
The art.
Then that you attended the Art Institute of Philadelphia?
I was 18. I was definitely after high school, definitely a year or so after the college experience. And then, because I remember I'm engaging the time frame because I got an internship eventually over to California. Yeah. I know that I couldn't drink, right? It was in that block of time. Yeah. So I was like I was 18. I was a young guy. So,
you mentioned the internship that would be at Stan Winston Studios in Los Angeles. So how did you find out about it? It was an internship. I believe it was unpaid at first and then it turned paid, if I'm correct. But tell us about how you found out about it, what the application process was like.
How I found out about it, my pops lived we were in Center City, right? Philadelphia set up, we have Center City, and then you have the surrounding boroughs around that. The Center City is where all the office buildings and the apartments. My dad had an apartment in that area, and that was in walking distance to the school, which was in Center City.
Okay.
Lights were off at 11:30, right? I didn't want to go to bed at 11:30, right? And so I would always go down into the fitness area in the apartment complex and watch TV, right? So on one of the times I was down there, I saw an ad and Stan's shop. It was like a documentary or something like that.
Okay.
Or something where they said, oh, this is how Jurassic Park was.
Yeah.
Or, and then it was like, I was like, wow, that's so cool. Like I didn't know you could do that type of art. And I was like, and I was still stumbling through to try to figure out what I wanted to do. Right. I was in art school. I still didn't know where I was going. Right. I was trying to selling T-shirts. I just asked the dean. I told him about that. And I was like, and he said, yeah, it's a possibility I can ask. Like, I was asking, was that a job possibility?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And he said, and then he came back a week or two later and said, yeah, they did actually have an internship program.
Wow.
And I was like, really? I was like, what do I have to do to get considered? You have to create a body of work, and then you had to submit it. I didn't have any work. I was like, I could barely render. I was in a sculpture class, and so I was like, I saw that they were doing some sort of like, what was it? Like it wasn't Planet of the Apes. It was some ape show with it was an ape movie with Anthony Hopkins. They were real apes, but I was like, oh, well, I guess he likes apes, right? So in one of my classes, I did a casting of my own head, right? And I just started sculpting on top of that. So I made something that would look kind of like it was going to be in that product, that show, right?
Yeah.
And then I just tried to render the best I could because I was doing like urban art, like graffiti. I was like, well, I know I can do something real, right? And so I was like, I just tried really hard to put something together in hopes that I would be considered.
So you sent like photographs and stuff like that, or is this before the internet, or was it around the time of the internet?
It was all because I had to do slides.
Oh wow, slides.
Like film and it's like they had a whole thing that they wanted but I did it. And then I was over the moon when they said that I could come down.
Wow.
I was over the moon.
That's awesome.
Wow.
It was so cool. And
so it was unpaid, or was it a paid internship?
yeah, it was just an internship to see if you like it, but it wasn't like that for me because I was like, I didn't have anything else.
Mhm.
I know I didn't want to do manual labor.
Mm-hmm.
The experiences that I had when I was over in Philly highlighted that I needed to develop a skill set so I could leverage that. It was so much high competition for ordinary gigs or ordinary jobs or manual labor jobs because everyone would be able to do it. And then there I was fighting. I would try to get any type of job. I remember the one significant one was I finally got a job that would pay $8 an hour over at UPS, but it was out in the factory.
Oof.
So, and the factory time didn't start till 10 p.m.
Wow.
So it was 10 to 2 o'clock, right? But I was like, I need to have a job. I need to get some money. But then I had school the next day, right? And the only way to get out there is you had to get on the bus. And on the bus, you were on the bus and you saw everyone else who was going out. We were all getting carted down to the location. I did it for like maybe a month or two. And then in that month or two, I remember this distinct thing is I saw this one time after the grind of it, started to get into it, having to do that, having to work hard labor for 4 hours straight, right? Because you're lifting boxes. There's no break. You're like, they won't even let you work 8 hours because it's so much work, right?
Wow.
And the boxes are from like 20 to over 100 pounds. So you were deadlifting all the time for like 2 hours
What
straight.
a great workout.
Right? and it was inside of a factory, right? So what that means, right, is that the trucks are coming in.
Exhausts.
Right? So this is exhaust. So you're breathing and working out in this environment, right?
Horrible.
At the end of the night, every night, you blow your nose and it'd be black, right?
Terrible.
I remember this one thing when I looked over, I was on the bus and I saw this one man. He was an older man. He looked like he was in his 60s, right? And I was like, I don't want to do that. I would rather not, right?
Sure.
I was like, if his experience is like my experience and I'm in a 20-year-old body, I was like, I can't imagine what I was like, I don't want to do that, right?
Yeah. Probably only 40.
So
he just looks like he's in his 60s.
I think it was important because I was very clear. I was like, yes, I can do manual labor. No, I don't want to do it. I'd rather work on developing it. It helped me, give me fire to understand you have a choice. You have a choice to open up a book. You have a choice to do any of this. You know what I'm saying? You can do either one you want, right? And it's like, it's a matter of how you want to point yourself toward it.
So you attended Art Institute, got the internship at Stan Winston. Tell us a little bit about your experience landing in LA and what that was like. Because I believe that was the first time you'd lived away from home in the East Coast. I mean, Philly was a couple hours, I guess, from DC. But this is a 5-hour plane ride all the way across the coast to a totally different way of life. So what was that like getting adjusted to LA? And did you know anyone when you got there?
I knew one person. It was like I had family by way of an extended family that I was able to. They were able to provide me a place to land.
Okay.
Right. And so, but I had to do everything else myself.
So, like, you could stay with them while
I could stay with them. She helped me out. We have a beautiful friendship still to this day. It's like one of the cool ones. It's like
that's
still
great.
a 20-year friendship. I had a place to land. She helped me navigate for a bit, but she had her own space and stuff to navigate. So I had to kind of do it myself. And then eventually I was able to get a house with a bunch of other guys that were from the school system, right? And then so we were all kind of we rented the house. It was rent was I don't know, $300-$400 a month each
of you,
for us. Yeah, so we all were in there. That was an amazing experience.
In a good way or bad way?
It was just a lot of stuff. It was because we're it was a lot.
Okay.
Those are still my dear friends to this day. We were all in the same spot. We were all at the same age, and we're in this place that's not home, right?
Yeah.
And we have to figure it out.
Right.
We all were able to land in an internship
That's
position,
pretty cool.
and it was up to us to be able to keep it, right? And the way you kept it was to show value, what I'm saying, which is, don't goof around, do your stuff, be of service. Yeah, just remain in truth, and it'll be fine. And so we were, and then we were able to all stay. And then the companies extended an offer to hire, and I was over the moon at that, because at the time they were like, yeah, we'll give you like $400 a week, right? And I was like, $400 a week.
I scored.
Wow. Right? I was like, you know how many CDs I can buy?
I could pay my rent in 1 week.
Oh my god, it's amazing. I was just like, I felt like I was just like an actual grown adult. Because I was like,
when you were there, were they training you based on your aptitude or based on your portfolio that you had originally sent? Like, was it something where, oh, he can draw really well, or he can sculpt well, or hey, what would you like to do, and then we'll train you? Like, how did that go down?
Okay. The way I'm going to answer that roundabout is like, when you said, hey, will they train you? I was like, I don't think anyone really does anything for you. They open up the opportunity, and then it's up to you to figure out what you want to do with that. There was training to be in the mold department, but I didn't want to be a mold technician, right? I was like, I wanted to be a concept artist. I wanted to do all the art stuff. But the only way to be able to do that is that you have to work for that. You have to create, that path for yourself. Otherwise, no one else will create you. They've already opened up the space. You're like, you're in Stan Winston Studio. What are you gonna do with that? Right? It was like, just what do you want? It was like, and then if you want to be a sculptor, develop your skill set as a sculptor, and then show what you can do, and then you're already inside the walls.
Sure.
So that was the general environment that was like.
They put you on a project though, you're still green, so it's just like, well, as a sculptor, you're not going to be able to really sculpt a dinosaur quite yet. But hey, can you help us out with this?
Yes, a lot of people. There's multiple opportunities for that. It's just you have to kind of find out where you wanted to go with that. And it was like, and Stan was so generous.
Nice. Oh, that's good to hear.
He was so generous. It was so cool because he just opened. It was like once you were inside, it was like a family structure, right? He had this one thing where he would do is like he would open up everyone who wanted the opportunity to concept on one of the films that was coming through.
Oh, that's
the
nice.
shop.
That's cool.
It happened like once every year, or like maybe once or twice a year. But it was a time we all looked toward. We're like, I can't, like the show was like, oh, is it possible? And then he would open it up, and then you'd be able to go up into the concept art room, right? And you get to sit in the chair, and you get to
That's nice.
It's just like, it just allowed you to be able to dream and then produce.
So, Charles, who were some of the major illustrators at that time who were doing concept for Stan? Talk about them, and then also, were you able to spend time with them, learning from them how they went about their process?
The main ones was Crash McCurry, Joey Orozco. Those were like my main connections. I had connections with a lot of people there. Joey he did sculpting, and then the way his draftsmanship and how Crash was, and his draftsmanship. It was just like they were they opened up. It was like, hey, you can, this is possible with art. Like Joey had such a grasp of anatomy, and then he would move that anatomy over into creatures, right? And then he was all about, understanding anatomy, understanding the function, understanding how it moved with the gaits of different creatures as they were walking, right? And so it was just the idea of just using the traditional knowledge and then going into another level with it. It just engaged my mind. I was like, oh wow, yeah, that's cool. And then you could see it, and then they were really adept at rendering. And Crash's stuff he would just make things look like photographs, but he'd make dinosaurs. It looked like it was like he was like doing studies on dinosaurs, like as if they were walking around.
Yeah.
And
that's amazing.
Being able to take the fundamentals, right, and then use them in that way to create something that does not exist, and and that you could. And then it was like, then inside that, it was just the whole ecosystem. It was like, you had the guys in there who it looks like they had like a mechanic background, or they would build things like, with mills.
Right.
But then those guys would be like scientists, because they would be building these robots and then the animatronics, right? And you're like, that's possible. You're not, it's not like it was all like, Stan had just created this environment where it's just like all these mad scientists
Yeah.
like, and artists were.
Yeah.
It was so cool.
That's so cool. Jeez.
So
So go ahead. Go ahead, Lance.
Well, I was just going to say, we're Crash and the other, was it Joey? Crash and
Joey.
So were those two guys pretty open to your curiosity and feeding your curiosity and kind of helping and like explain how they go about their work? Or were they kind of like, hey, I'm busy, kid, come back later after I'm done and we'll talk?
The environment was built for generosity.
Oh, okay. That's great to hear.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody was like that, especially in that time period. It was just a big learning environment.
Mm-hmm.
That must have been really valuable too, is like when you're trying to concept something, it's not like, oh, I'm just drawing pretty pictures. I'm actually having to think in terms of like material science and how these applications are going to overlap with something else. So that just sounds like a really holistic way of learning.
It's so cool. It was so cool. And also because since I was coming from the East Coast, right? And the art realm in the East Coast is more like product design, or it's not movies, right?
Mm-hmm.
Movies are over here or in LA or in the California. That's where that is. So that's the type of artists that are around here are very different than the ones that are over in the East Coast.
Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
So eventually, from what I remember from hearing you talk in a previous interview, they had a round of layoffs, and unfortunately you didn't make the cut because you were one of the newer guys, and that forced you to go find something else. So tell us about that experience and what did you choose to try to pursue after leaving Stan Winston?
That was scary. That was a scary time because I knew I couldn't go. I'm not going back.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going back east. There's nothing for me back east. I already know what that's like. So what's here, right? So then I was like, well, I can't, like, I can kind of do some art. I can do, but I was like, I had to kind of, it's like I have to figure out what I'm doing.
Sure.
There's no one's leading me anywhere. I was like, I'm just like, it's like, hey, what do you want your life to be like? And what can you do? The basics. I could trade my time for money, right?
Yep.
So go get a job, right? Pottery barn, selling at the mall, selling coats. Eventually I went and I did those temp jobs, those temp agencies, whatever it took to figure out, to keep the buck. I was like, dude, I have to keep going.
You're buying time. You're buying time until you figured out what your next artistic step was going to be. And
then they had the, so I know I needed to get better. I needed to get more, I need more schools. So I would take the money that I'd be making. And then they had these schools where you can pay for 3 months period of time.
Oh yeah.
$300-$400. And then a teacher, it was one place, it was called the Associates. No, was it?
They're like atelier schools where you could study with like Ron Lehman or some of these.
Yeah. It would just cycle in all these different working artists. And then they would be holding these classes and you can learn that and the figure drawing. I took so many figure drawing classes. It was stressful because I was like, I wanted a higher end job, but I was like, I needed to develop my skill set so I could do that.
I'm curious, there's always that moment for working storyboard artists where they first discover what a storyboard is. I didn't find out until I was in college in film school, which is kind of late. But it married my two loves of comic book art and film. So I was like, I kind of knew at that point, like, this is what I want to do. So I'm curious, how did you first learn about what a storyboard is? And then how did you go about pursuing your first job to become a storyboard artist?
I wanted to get paid to do art. All of my decisions were very monetarily based. So I was like, I know I would get paid to do art. I started out, I wanted to do characters, but that time period, it was pre-COVID, all that stuff. It's like when everybody worked in offices, right?
Yep.
And then, and that time period is like you could access people, you could access those offices. You just have to drive to them, right? I wanted to work in video games, but there was always, I never could get in. I've never been able to really get in through a front door on stuff. So with the video games, it's like I wasn't something in the path that was open to me. I just lost the line that you were saying.
Well, no, I'm just wondering how you discovered storyboards then. Like, was it in a book or a movie, like a documentary or?
No.
Okay.
Well, okay. So where I'm at right now is like, right now I'm I work with an agency, right? I work with Famous Frames. I've been with them for like over 20 years, right? Because I knew them when they had the offices. So I mentioned them is because that I had an awareness. I was like, oh, if you do storyboards, like you have this day rate, right? And I was like, what's the day rate? And they told me, and I was like, what are you are you serious? I was like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I was like, they'll pay you that much per day? I was like, what do you have to do to do that? I was like, so then after I was aware of that's what was available to a working artist.
Sure.
I was like, I'm going to point my skill set, my emergence of trying to figure out what I want to do to making myself that type of
But
artist.
I want to back up though, because you skipped ahead to Famous Frames, but I want to know how did you first learn about a storyboard? Like, where did you see it? Like to know to go to Famous Frames, to even talk to them about it. Or you didn't just happen to walk in, right?
Yeah. Did you see storyboards at Stan Winston Studios or? Oh,
no.
Okay.
My only thing on my radar over there was characters, concepts, the creatures. Yeah, I was just trying to figure out like how you could be making money as an artist, and then they were saying, hey, there's things called storyboards. They did storyboards for animation. I think I saw some animation storyboards for like a Batman Beyond or Batman something.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was like, well, what is that? I was like, I don't understand what that is. I was like, so I was trying to figure that out, but then I was like, I didn't understand how you're supposed to create these scenes inside this little box. I was like, I need an open piece of paper. I need a piece of paper, and then so I felt very constrictive of having
stay inside,
put everything inside
the border. Yeah.
And then I was like, but then I kept being prompted. I kept prompting myself. I was like, well, this is if you want to go to get that type of pay.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? That's what you have to learn.
Okay.
So figure it out. It was excruciating to try to figure out how to do storyboards. Because there's no more opportunities for school. It's like not in the sense where it's like I don't have a bank.
Mm-hmm.
I was like my parents are they're regular working people.
Sure.
Right. I asked them to help design my life. Right. I have to work and then build money, and then I can ask them for help. But then I know that I'm old enough to know that if I ask them for help, I'm drawing resources from them, and they need it.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's like, dude, just buckle up and figure out what you want to do, right? And then make it happen. So I was like, okay, so storyboards will, yeah.
So I guess you approached Famous Frames, and they're the ones who kind of explained to you how much you could make doing it. I'm sure they probably didn't tell you how to go about building your portfolio, though. That was up to you. And they probably said, come back when you have a portfolio and we'll talk. Is that pretty much how the conversation went?
Well, yeah, they did. It was like it's one of those things. Was like I just had to be relentless. It was like with things, because it was like there's a barrier to entry to everything.
Sure.
My advantage is that I don't have anything else, right? I was like, I can't go back. I don't have anything else. So if they keep saying, hey, we need to see more samples, then that's what I'm doing for the next year, right? Of being a personal trainer, and then I'm also trying to create things on my own that I'm not getting paid for. You know, saying to create samples until they say yes. I keep showing up until they say yes. It's like they said yes, but when it's like how with everything. It's like if people will more likely pay attention to you if you're already moving. Right. It's like if they feel as though they have to bring you up, no one wants to do that. Right. And so I found a way to where I had, which was another blessing. I found my way over to this one company, which was Zoic Studios. But I'm saying it's a blessing because I found there was like a loophole, right? They have this thing where you have to be in a union, right? In order to be able to work on anything of note, right? When I say of note, which means it's like any movies, right? Any movies or anything like that. That's like, if you want to work on a movie, you have to be in the union. Yeah. But you can't be in the union unless
worked on a movie.
It's a catch-22. It's a situation that's existed, and it's confounded storyboard artists and illustrators for a long time trying to get in. So I'm curious to hear your story of how you actually got in, because there are only a few ways you can actually do it. So what was your way? How did you manage to kind of sneak in?
So the workaround was, if you're not in the union, you can't get on those shows, but you can get on those shows if you work with a visual effects company that's on those shows. So the visual effects company is hiring you, right? Okay. And then the studio is hiring them. So then that's how I was able to build up my credit list.
And your hours too, right? Because you have to have so many hours working on a union project.
Yeah, I didn't build. No, I wasn't. I can't. You can't build in hours because you're not in the union. I was like, I was just the only thing valuable at that time was the fact I was trying to build up and saying like, hey, I can be seen. I'm on things.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
the cool thing about that visual effects company was that it acted as a hub, right? So the directors were working with these, which is when I look back, I was like, it was so cool. I got to work on. I boarded the first episode of Firefly.
Oh yeah.
It was back when Joss
Whedon.
before Joss Whedon did the Avengers.
Right.
I was working with Zoic, Alani Harrister over Zoic. So I got to do a lot of shows.
Part of being a storyboard artist, obviously, is your illustration skills. The other half, which is equally important, is your knowledge of filmmaking. So you already had the artistic skills pretty much refined at that point. How did you go about learning about filmmaking? Were you studying on the side? Did you learn on the job, on the fly? Did you talk to people? Tell us how you learned it.
Yeah, the filmmaking part didn't come until a decade or so later. So I survived and made it happen on just being able to look at comic books and being able to draw reasonably well.
Okay.
Right. So I had no idea about filmmaking. I had to kind of pick it up as I went along.
That's
and
crazy.
I was just like, I would just try to keep a poker face when they would start getting into
shots and
the lensing shots. I'm like, what are you doing? What is a wide shot? What is that?
Right.
It's like, what do you want it to look like? You want it to be here closer or like, I don't understand that.
Wow.
That's funny.
Dude.
So
that's pretty cool though. You managed to pull it off though. Congrats, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't start getting into that later.
Okay.
And then being able to do that, then I started. There were a lot of steps afterwards. And then eventually I was able to, because you can't exist on higher levels unless you know that
exactly
stuff.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
It's not possible. It's not possible.
Yeah. There's a lot, like you said, there's a lot of jargon and lingo that the directors and producers, everyone uses, and you kind of have to know what they're talking about in order to give them what they're looking for. Yeah, that's an interesting story. I don't know if I've ever heard anything like that before. That's pretty amazing. Seriously, that's pretty incredible.
What I've noticed is like storyboard artists at high levels are directors with pencils, right? When that being the case, then they can communicate with everyone, right?
Yep.
And then so that makes them a very valuable part of the team, right? Because they don't have to be taught anything. It's like you just talk to them, and then everybody can collaborate and then make stuff. But you have to be able to understand what people are. A high level storyboard artist needs to have an awareness of cinematography. They need to be able to understand, what's up with the previs. They need to go understand what the director is talking about as far as shots.
Yeah, just general storytelling.
Yeah.
How do you sequence a storyboard to tell the story properly in the right order? Your choice of angles, shots, everything. Yeah, it all adds up.
Yeah, and writing.
Yeah,
and writing.
Yeah.
You have to. You need to be able to at least understand what's happening with the writing structure, because you have to be able to make those changes and adjustments and creative inputs on the fly of things that are not even said, like within the script structures. It's like you have to be able to read between the lines and then be able to put that in there without being prompted.
So like when you first started working at Zoic, like how long was it before you actually had enough film credits that you were able to get into a union and then to get into like a different pay bracket?
Mark over at Family Frames got me, and much later he was able to get me into the union based off of some of his connections.
Okay.
And so I still use the VFX route, going with companies like that. At that point, I was just concerned about names, credits, because that's the only thing that is like, that's like the first thing.
The currency.
It's currency. You're like, if you walk into some place, they're like, well, what have you worked on? Right. And if it's like, if you don't have anything in currency, it's like they just don't look at you.
Yeah.
They look past you.
Yeah.
So regardless of what you can do, it's like, it's wild.
Yeah. So some people may not know is that there are two different levels, I believe. You tell me if I'm correct. There's the commercial storyboard artist, and then there's the feature film storyboard artist. And if you're a commercial storyboard artist, you can't really necessarily work on feature films right away. Like you kind of have to build up your credits and commercials. But the route that you took, having worked on feature films in the visual effects arena, were you able to skip past the commercial union and go right to feature films?
It's not, it wasn't nothing that it's not a straight line. I was just taking any jobs I could do.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's how I just kind of, so it's not like there was no structure. It's like, hey, do you have the skills to be able to do this job? And then if you do, here's the job. And so then after I just kept doing more and more of those type of things until I was able to stabilize on something. And that stabilizing process took over 10 years.
Oh, wow.
You know, like just there's nothing straight. I was like, and it was a little frustrating because the dream, when you hear about people like, hey, you know, this company, you know, offers this, you know, they'll hire you, you know, they'll put you on this plan, you know, say now you have a steady paycheck, you know, like, and then it's just like, that's never been that's not my life. I've had this stressful freelancer, which is fine now, right? But when you don't know, when you just want stability, it's not fun.
Yeah.
But if you have to exist in it for like over a decade and you need to keep it, and that's just like you either accept, hey, that's how life is. And if you want to keep going, you got to do that, right? And then just lean into it and then see what happens. That's when my path. So that's why my skill set is all over the place, and which is cool now because what you were saying is like the types of storyboards that I'm aware of is the film and TV, video games, animation, and advertising. And it's like, and now at this point I can do all of them. Right. It's like, but that's because I had to do all of them. It's like I did. If I wanted to do something, I would have just gone into doing characters in a company that would have paid me to just do for all these characters, and then that's what I wanted. But that's not what I got. You know what I'm saying? Like it was like, yeah.
Okay. So you worked for quite a long time doing features, and then I'm interested to know, how did you get into animation, specifically working on Blue Eye Samurai, which is the hit Netflix animated series?
How did I get in? Okay.
Yeah. Did you just apply? Like, because you have to be in the animation guild, I believe, to work on it.
Which is easier. Okay. That one's easier to get into. Anyway, I think anybody can get into that one.
Tell us about the process.
I learned how to do the animation storyboarding by a job that I had the most stability I've ever had. You know, as a working artist, and that was with Gore Verbinski had a project, and then within that project, you know, it was stability for like 2 years, right? You know, because he was trying to create this. He did, you know, he was the one who was responsible for Rango.
Okay,
but through that, on that team that he had assembled, and so that's where I became aware of, how to do animation or how to make things move, because you had to. It was an animation project.
Okay,
right? So I had to learn that skill set. From learning that skill set, that was foundational for a trajectory afterward. It was just, I wouldn't have been able to do anything like Blue Eye or Magician's Elephant or any of that. Nothing, because it's like it's just the modes of thinking that you need to be in
exactly
to be able to do animation.
Yeah, it's two different skill sets. I mean, they kind of cross over, but there's a speciality that you have to learn to do animation storyboards, and including, I imagine, the software too, right? Yeah. The software is very different.
I was still using Photoshop, but they showed me how to use layer cups, to be able to go to make it act like you're doing animation.
Gotcha. So you weren't using Storyboard Pro then at that time? Okay.
No.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure if you had to learn a different piece of software in order to work in animation because of their pipeline.
Storyboard Pro is ideal for that. Is the way they have it set up. It's beautiful. It makes everything so much easier. If you ever do it in Photoshop, it's you are trying to move something into something that doesn't fit. You know what I'm saying? With Photoshop, it's like
it wasn't designed for that type of work, right?
Not at all.
So now you're in 2 unions, right? You're in the Art Directors Guild union, and you're in the Animation Guild union. I'm curious, just personally, if you're in 2 unions, do you have to pay double dues, or do they take into consideration that you're already into one? Oh, you do. You pay dues for each one individually. Wow.
Jeez.
Whether you're working on them or not.
Holy
no
cow.
Kidding. But you already have benefits in one, right? So you don't need the benefits from the other one necessarily.
Yeah, it's just like that's a whole rabbit hole. It's like you have to juggle both of them, and you have to pay in both.
Okay.
You can freeze something, but you're still paying. It's we need to look at that again.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not
Okay.
fair.
All right. I was just curious. I thought maybe they took into consideration that you're already in one art union and yeah. Okay.
No, they just want your money.
Yeah.
So when you actually switched over from doing features to animation, what was the learning curve like in terms of like adjusting your style or pacing or even drawing style?
Being able to learn it because we were there for like 2 years, that was the reason why I was able to acquire that skill set. If it was just the regular freelance pattern that I had, I would not have been able to acquire this.
Can you tell us the difference between let's start with commercials and feature films, and then we'll go from feature films to animation. So if you're storyboarding a commercial and then you're going to storyboard a feature film, what would be the difference? The main differences. It could be time that you have to do it. It can be the detail level, all those things. I'm curious to know.
Commercials and advertising, it's more based on how it looks, at the aesthetic. If it has a cool, edgy style, whatever that is, it has to have high detail, just be clear and be able to communicate it. So however somebody can hit those points, right? And if you look at different advertising, it's like everyone's different.
Sure.
Like I'm still able to hit those points and still have a loose, energetic style.
Right. Yep.
But then I incorporate a lot of photographs that I pass through a filter and I add them into some collage.
Okay. Cool.
Or mixed media. So that works because it falls within the edgy type of thing. So then it works within that structure.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I was going to ask if you had any tips and tricks, but that sounds like one that helps to speed up your process.
Yeah, and it's a lower frame count, right? It's a lower frame count, and usually so because you're spending more of your time making it look pretty.
Right.
Whereas if you do film and TV, they have these things called shooting boards. Where shooting boards are supposed to be really, really loose.
Sure.
Not a lot of detail. You have to be able to draw because you don't have time to sit there and
make pretty pictures.
Yeah. But that's also a style too. So you have to be careful with that because you can get known for doing shooting boards, and that's going to be your career, which the demands on that are intense. And you have to decide whether you want to accept that, which is because usually shooting boards mean, well, if you're not drawing really pretty pictures, you can draw more of them. So let's get 60 to 80 frames for the day.
Wow.
And can we do that? Hey, we need you to work all this rest of this week. Can we do that? And then so if you just get into the mindset of like, I just need a job, I need money, you know what I'm saying? Like, and then you get known for doing shooting boards, and like that's
you're doing volume work. And there goes your wrist. It's
exactly.
Yeah. I also say that, but also I have to leave room for like it's like everyone has like things that they're really, really good at, right? And so if like that may be the thing that they're just like that's cool. Like they're really, really good at that. You know what I'm saying? And there are places for everything, right? It'd be interesting to see what somebody who's really good at shooting boards and how they would be able to hang and thrive in advertising.
Yeah, right. True.
And they'd have to modify some things, but they would take elements that make good shooting boards. It'd just be, and if they are able to do that, then they'd be in an entire lane. It's job security. You're in an entirely different lane.
Yeah.
No one else can do that. So it's really cool.
I imagine, though, that animation has its own structure. Like you're still drawing a lot of frames. You might be just taking that one frame, copying it, and then modifying the head position or something like that. But it's still a lot of frames because you're trying to show a sequence of motion as opposed to just like a keyframe here, a keyframe there, that sort of thing, right? And then you have to actually show the motion as opposed to indicating it, like you would in feature films with arrows or so forth, correct?
Yeah. With animation, it's more about the character acting. The example I like to use is that like in film and TV, if the board is a man walks into the room, right? You can just frame it and then arrange things and the shot so they're nice compositionally and then just leave it. But with animation, you have to show him how he is. How does he move? He has a different movement, like if you're explaining, you're the actor now,
right?
And so that is a different type of thinking. Being a storyboard artist is like you're like this master conductor, right? It's like you have to just make sure everything's working, and then just in sequence.
Yeah.
And so if you're doing animation storyboarding, now you're the actor on top of all the other stuff you have to the composition, the shot choice is, you're like, whoa, right? Yes, wild.
So in film, you might, just as an example, you might have 2 frames to indicate a short scene. Animation might be 10 frames because you have to indicate every movement
and every
within
change
there.
and every change of emotion too. Yeah.
Right.
Sometimes usually they'll get away, like in Blue Eye Samurai, they got away with a lot of A, B, and C
Mm-hmm.
shots, right? So that just 3, right, to describe, what's happening. But then sometimes if you really wanted to get like that, it added, cool behavior.
Yeah.
You might add another frame in there. So it'd be 4 frames.
Right. Nice.
Or in 6, so 4 to 6. Yeah. But then I guess because some of the animatics there ran out of that, which is so cool looking. Like when everyone works, they upload their stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
To the server, and then you're able to look at what everyone's doing. Everyone's able to look at what everybody's doing.
Yeah.
And then which is it's very cool, and then it's also like shocking.
Yeah.
Because you get in there, and then I remember one time I got in there and I had to upload something, and it was a sequence. It was like for the week, and it was a couple hundred frames, and then I got curious to start scrolling down, and then looked at this other guy who had uploaded something for the week, and then I looked at the frame count. It was like 300-400, or like, and I was like, "What the fuck?" I was like, "How are you? Is that what we're supposed to be doing?" I was like, 400. Like, how do you do? And so he was using Storyboard Pro, right? And so he was damn near animating the sequence, right? I guess that was his background. He was an animator, so it's just cool. The thing about with animations storyboarding is that you have to draw. If you don't draw it, then when they send it out, their animators are not going to make it up. They're just animating what you give them.
Jeez.
So you have to be able
very binary.
If you want behavior, you have to storyboard the behavior, and then the animator will bring that to life.
That's
the way that it's supposed to.
Yeah,
so,
that's good to know. Yeah, I think a lot of people don't understand that. I think they think the animator's job is to do fill in betweens, of what's going on and enhance everything.
Yeah.
But it sounds like the storyboard artist, the story artist in that sense, has the more important role, because they're the ones who are actually laying out the entire scene, how it's supposed to be acted, every beat, all that. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Like, how did you end up landing Blue Eyed Samurai for Netflix? Were you approached, or was there a call for artists, or did you know people?
Yeah. Okay. 2 parts is like, definitely everything is based on relationships, right? And so then that's how you would get to know about things, relationships, and your portfolio. I adopt more the approach to attract than to pursue, because I haven't had success in to be able to pursue, like to be able to go to submit and then to get any type of attention or notice, right? The way I utilize social media right now is that like I act as a beacon, and so like I'll just keep emitting, I'll just keep uploading, I'll keep showing what I can do, and then so it makes it very easy to know where I go. It's like I make it as clean, so I try to make it so there's not a lot of work that needs to be done. So when you go, like if you take my LinkedIn page, if you go to the LinkedIn page, there's art. It's structured art. Now I've gotten it down to where I have a format, right? And it's like and same with my ArtStation. If you scroll down enough on my ArtStation, you can see how it's just kind of like, it's a little bit more unorganized, but still there, right? But recently I put the show, I just make it very easy, right? And it's the same way on the Instagram. And I just keep doing it. I just keep showcasing. If I'm on a job, if I have stuff, I have an advantage of having a very large archive. But then, like, whenever things are able to be shown, then I'll show those and then package them now into the same format, so it all looks unified. And then if I don't have anything to show, then that's when I can start showing processes or whatever. But the idea is that I'm always showing something. The social media, it's a delivery system, right? It's like
you're feeding
mail.
The beast.
It's like every
yeah.
Well, I mean, when I say like mail, it's a mailbox to everyone who checks it daily, right?
Yeah,
it's like I don't know how many times I check my phone to go onto social media, for something. I just keep repackaging. It's, I guess, in a sense, like a internal gratitude. I'm like, this is what I've done. This is how it worked, and then just to keep doing
So
that.
somebody found you on social media to hire you for that job, or?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think I think I was working. I might have worked on the show, and then see what. Also, once you're inside the walls, then they have their internal hiring system. So now they're aware of you. And so, in order to get inside the walls, is like it's also through relationships, because it's like if you're on a project and then someone is very aware of what you can do, and they're on that project, they're like, "What's up with Charles on what is he?" I just saw him post this thing, like this is exactly what we're doing. You know what I'm saying? See if he's available, that type of thing. That's why the constantly just keep, because you're like showing what else you're showing attracting. Like
Right.
now, it's like I just keep updating, skills. Don't stay in one place.
Sure.
But that's an internal thing. It's like you have to kind of like, where am I going?
Sure.
Going back to like that's the habit formed, from like from the what we were talking about earlier. It's just like I'm always doing that. I'm like, where are we going with this, right? And then so just knowing new things. Like now, I have incorporated 3D into my workflow.
Oh.
I had to learn Blender it was slow. Everything's slow, when you start. So now I learn it. So now it's like when I do a part of my workflow, when I get a scene, I'll go make it.
Nice.
Like I'll go make the environment. And before it took me a week and a half to make an environment. Now I can do it in 2 hours.
That's great.
Right. But it was like, it's just being able to commit to it and then just be okay with the process of it. And then just every day, just be a little bit better on it. And eventually one day it's like, you won't even notice that you're just breezing through it.
Yeah. You created a go-to pipeline that you can use time and time again. That's great. It sounds like you're really creating your own serendipity by always posting, by always showing different things that you can do, that on any given day somebody will see something and it triggers them to think, oh, hey, we got this other project coming up, and that's how you've been able to stay in the game. So like, how long did you end up working on Blue Eyed Samurai? For the entire show or one episode?
No, they just just got hired for a couple scenes.
Okay.
And that's pretty much how it usually is with projects.
Wow.
It's like the longest one was before. That was the 2 year. That was just a beautiful highlight. Met so many cool people, so many awesome memories with everyone there. Just seeing how everybody just kind of grew in that system. But for the most part, my jobs go from either a day to 2 days to maybe a week to maybe 2 weeks to 3 months, maybe. That's usually the norm, but then that doesn't really go past that, and then be okay with that, right? So they usually hire me to do a few scenes because right now I can do complex scenes, and then after that, then they move on, I move on.
The life of a storyboard artist,
always.
So Charles, I'd like to get into some logistical and then also process related questions for you. So primarily, do you work remotely these days? Okay. So you work out of your home office that we're seeing you in now. And back in the day, I imagine you had to travel in. Okay.
Yeah, that's cool. It's good and bad on that. I'd rather not. But actually, I mean, I'd like.
Yeah.
You never want to say no, but you'd rather not because of the traffic is.
The COVID thing was very funny because it's like, it showed that you don't have to go.
Sure.
Right. You don't, because we couldn't. You know what I'm saying? And how long was that? It was like a couple of years. So when they turned that back on, they were like, "Hey, come on in." We're like, "Do I really need to?"
But so here's the thing. I kind of have like two ways of looking at it, and this is one of the reasons why I like doing these interviews, because I don't get to work in the presence of other storyboard artists anymore. So you don't have that exchange of new ideas, like, oh, I look at the way you're doing. I never even thought of doing it that way. That's cool. That's going to save me all this time. You don't get to exchange tips and tricks and learn things and just have that back and forth and that camaraderie type feel. Because we're all working in isolation these days on our own separate islands. And we very rarely have, the conversations or in-person meetings that we used to back in the day. So on the one hand, it's very convenient. It saves a ton of time because you're not traveling. I mean, I remember when I lived in LA, I would spend, 2 hours of my day traveling back, to a meeting and back, and the meeting might last 15 minutes, and I'm stuck in
Unpaid.
traffic.
I know. Isn't that
Yeah,
crazy?
unpaid, exactly.
Yeah.
And I always told them, I'm like, please take this into consideration for my work day. Like I only have so much time
They
in a
didn't
work
care.
day. No, they don't. So, and never made any sense to me. I'm like, we could have done this over the phone. So,
Mhm.
but those were usually one-on-ones with directors. But I guess what I'm talking about is when you're working in conjunction with other storyboard artists. I had that, pleasure a couple of times, and it was always fun because you did have that, like you'd go to lunch together, you'd hang out, you'd talk shop. You'd come up and look over each other's shoulder while you're working. What kind of software are you using? Oh, I never thought about doing it that way. That sort of thing. So that's why I have this kind of like, yeah, it's definitely has its positives, but also I'm missing out on that social aspect and learning aspect, I think, of it. So that's kind of why what we're trying to get across here by interviewing you, so you can share your process and experiences with those out there who are also working in isolation, especially newcomers who don't know exactly what to do. Like they're kind of feeling lost. So let me continue with my line of questioning if it's okay. So I imagine you started off traditionally working on pencil and paper. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And then you
Yes.
had to make the transition over to digital. So tell us a little bit about the transition.
Photoshop.
Right. How was it difficult for you? Were you always into computers?
I had a friend that helped me learn Photoshop. I wanted to learn Photoshop. I wanted to learn Photoshop because you could change things, you could color. I didn't have any money, so I had to. So paints were expensive. But if you're in Photoshop, you don't need to have paints. You can just, layers, right?
Yep.
So I was into that. So yeah, I learned that. What was that? So I lost the line.
No,
What was it?
just the transition. Was it an easy transition going from traditional to digital? Because not everyone made that jump. Some guys resisted it, I think, to their own detriment.
Yeah.
They held on like, no, I'm just going to do everything traditionally. But it ended up being a slower process, especially when it came time to revisions, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's a lot easier to do the revisions. But I was definitely a part of that whole time period where we were doing everything on tracing paper and vellum, and we had the markers. We had to keep buying markers.
Yeah.
But then digital to me made more sense because you can make changes. And also, it's like I think I've kept that now. It's like I won't ever do traditional stuff for
like a paid gig.
a job.
Yeah, for a paid gig. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. It's just
because what ends up happening is it starts being art. It starts
it becomes too precious.
I was like, because I was like I value it. I'm like the digital. I'm like, okay, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like it's a copy, but it was like, but then I remember that time when I would see what they would do with the art, right? If you were able to keep it, yes, you'd be able to keep it. But if not, it would be in a closet in a room in the studio where it's like it would just be file. It just like all that art, all that work, just all those papers. It would just be forgotten. It was like a graveyard.
Yeah. The hidden art, unfortunately.
Literally.
Not that many. Well, these days, like you said, with social media, you do get to post it, but it's not quite the same as like, being presented.
It's not really yours either. Is like at that point is like technically. I mean, a lot of people you can't, like, even if you do traditional, like some people say that they'll sell theirs. But the levels that I'm working on now is like I've been told multiple times is like that's not something that's looked highly upon, right? Is like if you start selling, like because it doesn't belong to you anymore, right? But I know there's a lot of artists that will do workarounds around that. I just stay away from that entirely. I'm like, okay, well, that's their stuff, and then I go make my own art, and then I can do that.
From a technical aspect, I'm always curious to know, because I always used to draw 3 frames to a page whenever I was doing storyboards. And then I think it was Dan Milligan, actually, I read that he only does 1 frame per page. And that changed my life because now I could rearrange the frames however I want. Before, it used to be a nightmare. If I did, say, 20 frames, 3 pages to each frame, three frames to each page, rather, and then the director wanted to insert a frame on page 6. Now all of a sudden I'm playing dominoes and moving things around, and it would take me forever. But so now I just draw everything one frame and then I lay it out afterwards. I put it into a template and lay it out, and then that way it's easier to move around those frames. How do you do it?
Yeah, I do it. I do it similarly to that. The whole multiple frames, that's really easy with Storyboard Pro. It is a no-brainer.
Right.
It's like it's set up for that. Like, so it's like so whenever you make changes, or like you can do global changes on things, and they keep shifting it, and then it's nice. It's beautiful, right? I personally like to do mine single frame because I like running it through like a movie. I'm on Photoshop a lot. If I haven't been on an animation gig in a while, so I don't have to use the Storyboard Pro in that way. So I can use Photoshop, and so I use the layer counts. The thing about with animation storyboarding is that once you learn it, it's really, really, really hard to turn off, right? And so, because you're like, oh, I just need, I want to describe.
I need one more frame,
right? Which is funny because the directors I've been working with, once they see what I'm doing with it, they're like, oh yeah, I like that. But then when they have to share it with the production team, it starts freaking people out because they think that the frames equal shots.
Yeah.
Right. So they're like, well, why do we have 20 extra shots on this? I was like, we don't have money for that. It's like, no, he's just describing what's happening.
Exactly. Yeah. I'd like to get into your process of working with a director. Let's say it's a feature film, because I'm always curious. A lot of times when they start storyboarding a feature film, the script isn't even finished being written yet. So when you're brought in, like, what is your experience? If the script is done, do you read that script, kind of break it down on your own, and then talk to the director? Or is it you read the script, talk to the director, he gives you a shot list? I'm sure it changes from depending on who the director is, but what generally has been your experience working on features?
It could go two ways. One, I always ask to record the meetings, right? Because I've noticed that when you ask people, the conversations will always be organic, right? And so when I come to things first time, it's like my mind could be on other things, or I'm trying to focus on something, or I could be like, oh, I'm here. My mind could be everywhere else, right? If you record the session, then you can review it, and then you don't have to retain. You can just focus on what you're talking about, and then if you miss something, you can always go back into the Zoom.
Yeah.
And figure out what's going on, especially if you start going off script, which is what mostly happens with me. When I get hired to do is because I get hired for organic type of things. So they have a base framework, but then it will have this whole array of different ideas that come up, right? And so I like the idea of not being able to stop that, just let those ideas come up without saying like, can you hold on, let me write it down? Or just like, I just like it to just come out. So that's one approach. And then another approach is, which often I ask for the shot list. I always ask for the shot list. The shot list is mostly because it requires you to think about what things are happening. And then, so if I'm coming into it, and if we don't have a lot of time, right?
Exactly.
Like, which is most times, it's just, it helps it because they're already been with the project for, I don't know, 6 months or whatever. And I'm just coming in. So just give me something clear so I can see it. And then I communicate, and then we can go from there. So I ask for shot lists, and then I love it when a director is able to at least do some sort of simulative drawing. That's amazing because it's just all about communicating. It's like, oh, you want it generally in this area, right? Another thing is I ask for like overheads, right? So if we have a scene, I'm like, just give me. It doesn't require any real drawing ability. Just make a box, like X, like this character is moving around this area. So I can just see the pattern. If I see the overhead pattern of motion, I'm like, oh, I got it. I understand where you're going. And then I can just start pulling in all the camera moves and all that.
Yeah, that's so helpful.
I get it.
When you're working with a director, how much does your style and the director's style meshing, how important is that?
By the time that I'm in front of a director, I assume that they've already know what type of work that I do and what it looks like. Since I have so much work up, right? It's like they're able to kind of like to see, like if it's going to work. And at that point, I'm asking, well, how do you see it? I was like, I try to remove myself. I can add to it. I think of myself more as like a contributor. I add to stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when I do the scenes, it's like it's like they're hiring me because of how I look at
Sure.
things.
Yeah.
Right. And so I just do it the way I look at things based off of their initial. This is what I want. Right. And so that's how I generally move, and it's helpful. So there's no butting of heads of anything because I'm like, hey, what do you want? What do you like? What do you want it to look
Yeah.
like? And then I just go and make it happen.
Have you ever had a difficult situation with a director where you actually did not mesh and you were on the job and you had to figure out how to make it work, or is there something that like that you could share?
I've always just been that contributor, right? I came from a place of not having any pride with it because I'm in this environment where I'm like, I don't know I don't even know what are you talking about with the film? What lensing, right? I have to go look it up afterwards, right? I can draw something, right? So point me in the direction of what you want me to draw and just spell it out.
So there was no
What?
situation where you were caught out on something, or this director's ego was just kind of like, not just ego, but their communication style was all over the board where you couldn't like nail something down. I mean, was there anything like that?
I have run, of course, you run into personalities that will look at things and people as things, and then we need to have a conversation.
Yeah.
I've never been that personality where you can just talk to me any sort of way, like, because I don't have to, right? Because I'm a freelancer. Right. I was like, I'll tell you my boundaries. And then if it's a consistent overstep, I'm like, I'm not the person for this job. You should contact the agency and get somebody in here that you're going to work better with. That's how I move. It's almost like it's just common courtesy. It's like, if we can work together, I'll have a conversation about it and we'll communicate. If we can't communicate, then
part ways. No harm, no foul.
Charles, I'm curious to know, do you often thumbnail your storyboards first to gain approval before you jump in, or due to time constraints, do you not have time to thumbnail? You just have to get it done?
Sometimes I'll thumbnail if we're in the meeting and we're talking about it. If we're doing it there,
in real time, yeah.
Otherwise, it's like I usually tell people I won't do that because the way that I approach things, I just need to get in there and do it. I'm fast enough now to where like it's less time for me to go ahead and figure it out than for me to just send you some thumbnails and then have to go do it again, right? If I have to make it legible for someone else to understand what I'm talking about, that's work. Like, I might as well just keep going.
Sure.
Right? But what has been helpful is that like I can do on-call drawings. I'm fast enough for that.
That's good. That always helps.
But but that also, it's like I have to also preface it with, hey, we can get really far really fast if you have the time to do this with me, and it'll take about an hour and a half, right? But you have to let me know that like it's going to take that long.
Yeah, can they commit to that?
You know what I'm saying? Because you have to get,
Yeah.
But you can get really far. You can get really far if they have the time to do that. And then because there's no thinking. It's like you're like, hey, what's a shot? I pull up a frame and I'm like, I start sketching and they're like, yeah, that's great.
Move on.
To the next one. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. That's always been my experience whenever we have time to do something like that. It's always much faster because then there's not guessing in your head when you actually go to do the final boards. Then it's kind of you've already discussed it.
It's like visual note taking.
Yeah, your chances of getting it right the first time have just increased exponentially at that point.
Yeah. And you don't have to have a meeting on the thumbnails that need correcting to go to the next.
Right.
It's
like, Yeah.
What's the cool thing is like I'm still learning this, but the next step with the blender thing, they have this thing called a grease pencil.
Yeah,
right.
That's cool stuff.
At first, when I was trying to learn blender, I was like, I wanted to learn the grease pencil because I was like, oh, look what you can do. You can draw on it. But then I'm like, well, let me just learn everything. The harder thing, which I didn't want to initially do, is to learn how to build something in 3D since I'd never messed with 3D ever, right? And so, but then I was like, all right, do the hard thing first. Like, just figure out what the 3D thing is, and then so now it's amazing, right? So the next step that I'm working on is to be able to use the grease pencil. Well, Blender is like a box, like a Lego set. It's very modular. It's free, but it's like you buy add-ons, right? That's how the whole community makes money. I spent like $500 on add-ons, right?
Wow.
Because you just start making it the way that you want to do it, right? But everybody would have different choices on how they want to make it. So one of the add-ons they have, which is really cool, which is great for all storyboard artists, is like they have Storyliner, which is one, right? Then they have this other one called Visions
Hmm.
Pro too. So what it is like they incorporate the use of the grease pencil in there, so you can storyboard, say in
Nice.
Blender,
Right. 3D and then move the camera around.
which,
right?
oh
Yeah.
my gosh, it is so
Yeah.
cool. It is
Yeah, it
so
saves
cool,
a lot
man.
of time. Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. So we're talking about technology. So as we move to wrap things up here, I have to ask you, as I do everyone these days, your thoughts on AI. Like, where do you sit on it? Are you a supporter of it? Are you someone who's rallies against it? And where do you see the future of storyboarding going with these emerging technologies?
There's some uses for AI. There's some uses for it. I understand, but it's so weighted. It's like there's so much going on with it. It's so much going on with it. As far as the art AI, there's a lot going on with that. Of how it's things that it's sourcing it to make it work. For me, at the levels where I'm at, it gets in the way. It's in the way. It's like it's not useful at all on multiple levels, right? On multiple levels. One, it's not controlled, and two, you start getting into like where the art styles are coming in, from, right? They're being sourced. Yeah. It's like it just starts getting. I leave that alone. That part alone. There are other AI things which I think are I like, right? Which I'm like, it can be fascinating. Like they have this one thing, like an AI add-on in Blender where it uses the AI to calculate some of the physics of a character as it's falling or something like that. Cool. Yeah. So if you're animating something, you can say, "Hey, can you give me some iterations of like what does this fall look like?" And then it'd have an AI add-on, and it would just. So I mean, like there are uses for it, right? But yeah, as far as the art stuff, it's like, look, I'm like again coming from the 90s, right? Since it just started, right? I got to see how people reacted when they were able to do things that they saw for so many years, right? And then I'm like, well, okay, man. I was like, and then the excuses that start coming with that, it's a little intense. I'm still from the era of like, just dig in to where you are, right? And then show what the gifts are that you have, and then just keep refining that, right? You have to go through like the hard. There's no shortcuts. In the 90s, there were no shortcuts. If you want to be this type of artist, you have to go through DIY, these things. Yeah. And then yes, we all went through these where you have to study, where you're copying, right? And then copying to the sense where you're copying, where it looks like you look at it, you're like, it looks exactly like the other person, right? But then it's an exercise.
You're learning,
right?
You're
to
learning from
the idea of having something exactly the same as something that was, right? And then to put your name on it, right? And then be like, I was like, dude, and especially if that person is still alive and in the room, right? So I don't know, that's over there, right?
Okay.
I mean, there are always some interesting things that they're coming up with it. Like the filmmaking part, it's interesting where it's going, right? They have the realistic ones, like with the AI, the movie videos, right? It's not there yet. There's a lot of things that are happening. You can't control it, but it's interesting of the progress it's making. I'm like, oh, that's fascinating. I was like, I wonder what would happen if you can control it. Then
they're getting there. They're getting to the point where you can start choosing like the lenses and the camera angles and the where the actor is positioned in the frame, and it's getting there. So I do think it's something that we have to be concerned about if you're on the other side of the fence. But so with that knowledge, you don't have a crystal ball in front of you, but where do you see the future of storyboarding going, say in 5 years' time, even?
On the higher levels of storyboarding, I think it's what I've noticed is that it's less about the drawing and it's more about the filmmaking, knowing what to do.
I would agree.
And then you just are able to do it, right? You can draw or you can assemble things and you know where to put them, you know what I'm saying? And so it's helpful, right? So if you're asking like where I see the future, I was like, you always are going to need to know what to do and where to do it. And the only way to get that information is to be able to go the long way, right? Truly, right? You got to keep studying. You got to keep researching. So there is no workaround. People think that there's going to be a workaround, but there is no workaround. Okay. So even if you have an AI that somebody's got to drive it, and the person who's driving it, right, if you have one person who's driving it that doesn't know what they're doing, right? And you have another person who's been doing it for 30, 40 years, right? The dude is this person is going to come out, is going to be making some amazing, groundbreaking things, right? So, but you still, the essence of it is you still have to know where to go, what to do, what questions to ask. You have to have that base curiosity and not think that it's going to be handed to you. Like the example is like with animation is like, remember when when 3D animation just started coming around, right? The people who could control the 3D animation the best were the ones that had understanding of the fundamentals of animation, the traditional fundamentals of animation. You know exactly, you know where to go, you know what to place it, and then now you're using the 3D tools, and so then it looks amazing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's a good analogy. Yep. So with that in mind, what we just discussed, do you have any advice for anyone, say a youngster who's looking to get into doing storyboards, or even someone maybe looking to pivot? Has been doing something else and they want to start doing storyboards. Do you have an advice to give to them, or would you say, don't do it?
Save yourself.
I think the basic principles are like, find out what you love about something, right? And then just keep vibrating in that area, right? Because what you love about something is rooted in your own personal truth. That can't be copied, because that's your own personal gifts. And then if you just keep digging, if you're willing to commit to digging, then you're just going to be able to find out what that is. And then you'll be able to attract and be able to create that lane instead of having to fall into someone else's lane. This whole thing is it's very faith-based. I found it. You just have to be able to willing to go into whatever the truth is within you, and then believe that you're going to be able to keep doing it, regardless of whatever the outside inputs. And then the other thing is to be consistent, which is like you just have to. So it's just love, and it makes love, faith, and being consistent, right?
Yeah, that's a very good point.
And then just figuring it out.
That's really important. It's like the Holy Trinity, for pursuing your dreams, really.
Yeah, I think if doing that is like you'll be able to develop a lot of your own self-confidence. You need to be able to develop your own self-confidence. And I think like an emerging artist is that it's one of the lessons that you're going to have to learn is you have to be able to vibrate by yourself, right? Because no one else knows what you were given. No one ever knows what your gifts you got. I was like, you have to be willing to look in and figure that out. And then there are going to be some other things that are going to happen. Once that happens, the things that people don't talk about. Once you're able to have that self-confidence, then when your light starts shining a lot brighter, then it's going to attract other things that you didn't think it was going to attract.
Yeah.
Which, if you don't have a high self-confidence or high self-direction or internal compass, you're going to get taken off of it because someone wants to take you off of it. And then no one really talks about that. And if you're on a long enough timeline, right, going after what you want, right, somebody's going to try to take you off of it. And then you must be aware of it and be okay with it. It's just part of what's happening. But know that that's coming. So if you're asking about an artist that's starting, know that that's part of it, right? And it's like the thing that's going to help you the most is to be able to keep looking inward into your truth, because that's the compass that you were given, and then and just protect that.
I think that's a great point, which we could end. Before we leave, Charles, are there any personal projects that you're currently working on that you'd like to promote?
I do have projects that I'm working on, but not at the level where I can
promote yet.
Talk about but they're coming. They're coming. I'm working on them.
All right. So if someone wants to learn more about you and see more of your work, where would you direct them to go?
Oh, yeah. I'm all over social media. Like in the sense where I guess the biggest ones would be LinkedIn, Instagram, and ArtStation.
Okay.
Those are the good, and YouTube. I'm on YouTube. I'm gonna start doing more activity on YouTube.
Tutorials?
Whether it's gonna be like tutorials or like just showing processes and stuff, and just kind of like
awesome. We could use more of those. So I think that's great. Fantastic. All right, Charles. Well, thank you so very much for joining us today.
Yeah.
I'm sure our audience got a ton of good value out of this interview, especially those that are just trying to start out in this field. So I want to thank Charles again. I want to thank everyone for tuning in today and watching this. And we'll see you in the next one. Before we sign off, I'm Lance Laspina.
And I'm Shane Patrick White. And as always, thanks for watching.